What is up, fantasy football world? The Around the 412 has awoken from their slumber and are ready to bring the house down. As always, I'm Joe Frick. It's your boy, Dr. Drew, having a restful, joyous offseason. Drew, how you doing, man? What's new?
I'm good, man. Are you sleeping?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not the only daddy on here anymore.
No, it's true. I did watch my wife birth a child. We went to sleep last night around 11:30. Me and Jonah fell asleep in the recliner, and then we were up at 2, and then we fell back asleep. Then we were up at 5, and I was like, all right, we might just sneak this out the rest of the night. Back up at 6. I cannot feed him in the ways that he desired. So then we had to wake up the big boss. But yeah, fatherhood's cool. It's been a great time. No complaints. 10 out of 10. We'll do it again. But the show must go on. And it is the off season. We've had a lot of stuff happening. So rather than do headlines, injury updates that don't really exist right now, we really want to do all Tinder all the time. I haven't been swiping my thumbs. I was trying to practice before the show. Very slow, very stiff. We need to get in that mid-season form. So let's just remind everybody, Drew, how this whole sort of shebang works. So let's just explain a little bit of Fantasy Football Tinder. What does that mean? What's going on? And then we'll just kick things off and get going. So as is tradition, we have our friend Zach, who is kind of our model for Fantasy Football Tinder. You also might know Zach, though, as Mid Kuiper. And Mid Kuiper every year puts on a great day one draft special. Drew and I usually tune in. We're a part of that with Tyler, Sarge, these other guys. And really what I'm trying to figure out is, do you think that Mid Kuiper is ready for draft day 2025? It's what, a month away at this point now? We're getting pretty close to it. When is the draft even? It feels like it could be tomorrow. It could be in a year. I have no idea. It's like the weekend of the 22nd or something like that, right?
It's always the last Thursday, the last weekend. So whatever that date is.
Yeah.
It starts on Thursday, the last Thursday.
Yeah. So we're looking at the 24th, April 24th. So it's my sister's birthday week. So that's super awesome. I know in my heart that Mid Kuiper lives for the draft day special. I'm very excited to see the outfit. So what you'll see if you're watching live is we're going to swipe right. We're going to hit you with the green hearts. Get her done. Mid Kuiper ready to rumble. And if you're like, man, I don't know. Mid Kuiper just got a new house. He's big time now. Can't even respond back to texts in a timely manner when you're trying to get back into the StreamYard. I don't really know. Well, then you might swipe left and you'll see that on the screen with the red X. So, Drew, a lot of stuff going on. We'll keep our eye on the comments in the chat, but let's do a little bit of Fantasy Football Tinder. We are going to do this by position. So let's kick it off with quarterbacks. So first quarterback that we are going to bring up, Sam Darnold, moves from being the Minnesota Miracle Man. Now he's in Seattle. 3 years, over $100 million. And Drew, are you drinking Darnold Palmer's with the Seattle Seahawks this year?
Yeah. It's actually funny. I was thinking about the midseason form thing you're talking about. I don't think I'm midseason form for Tindering yet, but like I have a cough drop in my mouth. I got my cough. So I'm like, it's like October for me in terms of doing this podcast. But
yeah, it's messing with everybody. Ricky's already in the chat. He was trying to figure out my hieroglyphic message like going into the week. He can't believe it's March. Ricky's doing good. I'm sure he's right on schedule as always. So holding it down. But good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well too. But Drew, you're sick again? This can't be real.
I've been sick since like January. It's just what I do. I'm sick all the time. Sick to the point where I don't even remember what I swiped. I think I swiped right for Sam Darnold.
You did not. Yeah. We both swiped left.
Why did I think I swiped right? Okay.
You might have swiped right at one point. So Tinder is really not that much of a thing that married people tend to do, or at least they're not supposed to do. So as loyal men, Drew and I don't really have much experience, at least lately, in Tinder. So really how Tinder works on the show is that I text stuff to Drew. Drew gives it either a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
But I'm just going to keep that open now.
You can just keep it open and see. It should be going based off of the thumb. But.
Yeah, I thumbs down. Honestly, like, I think my confusion is there was a report that came out, I think, after we talked about this, that Sam Darnold's contract is really like a show me deal still. Like last year, it was a show me deal.
Yeah.
The Seahawks can get out of this after 1 year, and I feel like he has to play and play well. I think ultimately for fantasy football purposes, though, that his weapons, he doesn't have Justin Jefferson anymore. I mean, he has JSN and Cooper Kupp, both very good weapons if Cooper Kupp stays healthy, but both of them combined are not Justin Jefferson, on top of the fact you have Jordan Addison and you have TJ Hawkinson, and then most importantly, he doesn't run. So I think that's ultimately where I swiped left. But I am interested to see if, Darnold can repeat what he did in Minnesota, considering I don't think the offense is going to be too different. I know McDonald came from like the Ravens system, but I think that he's a smart guy and he'll try to adapt to what Darnold did well last year. But mainly he's not going to run. He's going to have to throw for a ton of touchdown passes to kind of replicate what he did last year. And odds of that happening are probably slim. So it makes sense I swipe left, but I am interested because, if he doesn't play well again, they'll get out of that contract and he's going to be a backup again. So
yeah. So another fan favorite, Chad in the chat, said we're about to have a Noah Kelsey. I didn't realize. I thought Noah would kind of follow in the footsteps of his son or his dad, play on the defensive side of the ball, but maybe we'll see. Unless he's talking about Noah Fant.
Noah Fant. Yeah, he's talking about Noah Fant.
We'll see. I would think that Noah Hannes probably sticks to the defense.
There's only one Noah for this show. Only one Noah.
We'll see. Yeah, I think the big thing for me when I think about the Seattle offense last year, people weren't really thrilled about Geno Smith, who we'll talk here in a little bit. Darnold did not do well under pressure in New York. He did not do well under pressure in the last couple weeks of last year. He really got tested heavy. If you remember, there was the whole talk about, I'm seeing ghosts out there and all this and that. Well, nothing like walking into a team that gave up the third most sacks last year.
Yeah.
They got rid of arguably one of their top 2 and 3 target getters in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So obviously I'm a big JSN truther. Great pick. Love that guy. But that's really all that they have right there. They've got the depth in the running back room, but that offensive line, I don't think it meshes well for Darnold. I will not be on the Darnold Palmer train. I will be sitting that one out. Definitely not for me. So that's why I ultimately swiped left. So let's keep it on the quarterback room. So in comes Sam Darnold. Out goes Geno Smith. Chat, I want to know, are you swiping right or swiping left? You got them apple bottom Genos on. And then I'll give you all a second to swipe. Drew, we'll broadcast both at the same time, and then we can kind of talk about it. So, and Ricky brings up a good point. Cooper Kupp, he got brought in as well as the replacement wide receiver 2, got $45 million over 3 years. I don't know how I feel about Kupp. We're going to talk about him too, but a lot of scary stuff going on. So, chat says swiping left, Trey Tucker stock way up. So that came from none other than Chad. Let's see how we swiped from the show. So, Drew, you were swipe right. I'm going to swipe left here. Gina got a pretty good contract out of this. What are you liking out of what you're seeing in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I just think that, with Tom Brady kind of coming in there and he's kind of running the ship for them, they have a high pick, which I expect to be Ashton Genty. I just think that makes a lot of sense for them. Jacoby Myers is no slouch. I didn't even realize he had a sneaky 129 targets last year.
Oh yeah, he was good.
Yeah, I think that Geno's going to surprise some people. I think just based off of, how they're changing things there, I think they're going to bring in Genty. And then obviously Brock Powers, he's not just a tight end security blanket. Like the dude's an elite tight end, elite target. I think that he has enough there. And I think that the Raiders are going to be playing from behind a lot. I mean, they're not a good defense. I think that he's going to be throwing a ton based on game script. And that's why I swipe right, because I just think that based on game script, most of this next season, he's going to be throwing the ball a ton. It's just going to be a lot of garbage time, shootout type of things. Their defense has, been disappointing for several years now. And I think that that's going to help him. from a fantasy standpoint.
So I think the thing for me, and I think one of the things that's most underrated about Geno Smith's game is that he's a very accurate passer. So that 2022 season where he was QB8, that was kind of like his breakout. He was like, oh, they didn't write me back, like all this stuff. He had a lot of potential intercepted passes that year that kind of slipped through the cracks, even though he completed almost 70% of his passes. So it was a dink and dunk kind of offense, but then when he took chances, it was kind of risky. He rushed for 366 yards that year as well. He hasn't run as much. We haven't seen the passing touchdown volume there, but last year he had almost 600 passing attempts, was QB 15 on a points per game basis. I would expect him to probably be hovering around that 600 pass attempts if he can get there. I think the biggest holdup that I see is that because Vegas doesn't have the offensive firepower, I expect them to try to grind out games, keep it low scoring, control clock, which doesn't necessarily bode well for, hey, this quarterback's going to be doing a lot. I do think it's interesting to your point. If you look at that division, I mean, you got Kansas City, who never loses. You have Denver, who was a big surprise team. Chargers seem to always have a good team on paper, but it hasn't necessarily translated. But with Hardball, they're taking the next step. So the Raiders, seemingly 4 out of 4 in that division, definitely an uphill battle for them. I think QB-wise, in real life, I think Geno will do better than he will from a fantasy perspective.
The thing is, too, and I should probably be more clear with this, too. We know what Geno is. Like, he's not a guy you're going to start week to week. He's always going to be a streaming option. So I'm looking at him in terms of streaming. Like, he's a guy that you're going to be able to rely on if you have a bye week or if he has a good matchup. But he's not a guy you're just going to start week to week because he doesn't run. But I trust him and I swipe right because I know that he's a guy that I could look to if I'm in a pinch based on matchups. And I think that's a clear, thing that I have to make.
Yeah. I feel like does it improve his fantasy stock perspective? It's probably a net neutral change. I don't think it's dramatically better. I think he had 3 great weapons last year and didn't blow socks off. He only had 21 touchdown passes, right? So 17 games, 21 touchdown passes. Like, that's not moving the needle for him.
It was weird because, like, I looked it up for when I was looking for Darnold stuff. They threw the 5th most in the league, but it still felt like they were run heavy. It was just like,
well, it was almost like it was like a very, like, his yards per attempt right in line. He was 7.5, but it just felt very dink and dunk, I guess, is the best way that I can describe it. So we'll see.
And it's funny. You actually had swipe right on our text thread. Like, we're a mess right now, bro.
See, I don't have, if you look at my texts, I didn't have any of mine. It like got rid of everything.
Yeah, it shows up for me. Yeah. And it did the same thing for me. I swear I had to go back and do it. Remember I texted you? I was like,
yeah, because it's like I have all of yours, but I don't have any of mine. Because I remember going through real quick and doing it, but whatever. We live and we learn. We live and we learn.
This is the first time we've ever done an off-season show. So we're trying to do things.
That's true. We're growing up. We're doing big things. It is what it is. And we still got 54 people tuning in, so that's pretty dope. All right, so we talk QBs. Oh, wow. Let's talk running backs. So this one stings for my closet, but Najee Harris. Najee Harris leaves the Pittsburgh Steelers, signs a 1-year deal, gets up to over $9 million to go to the Chargers. Obviously, there's some incentives kind of laced through that contract on the 1-year deal. So I'll swipe chat. If you have any swipes, go ahead and do it. Drew, how are you feeling? Are you saying Felice Najee Dodd, or do you think this is a kind of tough landing spot for him?
Before I throw in my swipe there, I want to ask you kind of like a prediction. It's on the spot. I just thought of it. I would have asked you sooner.
Yeah.
J.K. Dobbins doesn't get hurt last year. Where do you think that he finishes overall?
Let's see. So I need to see what his per game, because the thing that was interesting about J.K. Dobbins last year is that he was breaking a long one, like
a lot
every game. Yeah. So it was like, okay, this is pretty wild. Keep it up. I didn't think that he would, but it felt that way for sure. So let's see here. So if he was Okay, this is baseball, but this is not helpful. So
So
let's
he was RB 19 on a points per game basis, but it was kind of like he came back at the end, and
yeah, those last couple games he really wasn't himself.
Yeah.
So let's see. So J.K. Dobbins. I mean, yeah, the New England game, like he was solid, but Vegas, like he didn't really do a lot. I think he probably would have been like a 12 to 15-ish kind of guy.
Yeah. That's the reason why I brought it up, because I want to see, first off, at the beginning of the season when we start doing, mock drafts for our redraft leagues, I want to see where Najee's going, his ADP, because he's dangerously approaching only fantasy 2025.
Yeah, let's look at. I know it's not the best way, but it's the best available metric that we have right now. So what I usually do when I'm looking at ADP is that I will look at the underdog like best ball drafts.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of get a sense of what's happening there. So let's see where he's at right now.
I'm swiping right, though.
Yeah, so I was also that was an immediate swipe right. I think he was misused in Pittsburgh. The whole like people being upset about the 1,000 yards thing was always very weird to me. But all right, so let's look. So right now, Najee Harris is RB 26 with an ADP of 83. So he is getting drafted around guys like, so I'll give you 20 through 30. So you got Travion Henderson, David Montgomery, James Conner, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson, Tyrone Tracy, Najee, Aaron Jones, Jalen Warren, Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson.
That's wild to me that he's going like Tyrone Tracy territory. I think he's a top 15 back next year. I think they're going to run him into the ground first and foremost. They have him on a 1-year deal, so they're going to play it year by year. The reason why he's rushed for 1,000 yards is because he stays healthy. And if he stays healthy in this offense, I think he's going to do very well. I think the biggest hurdle for him, if you look at how Dobbins was last year, was the fact that he doesn't typically break those long ones. I mean, he hasn't
had the chance to really either.
Yeah. So
it'll be really interesting to see from like a schematics perspective. I don't think that he fits into the zone running scheme for Artie Smith. I don't think he really fit into whatever you want to call what Matt Canada did, if you want to call that an offense. But I think the way the power running that Harbaugh does, I think it much better suits to Najee's skill set. I don't think that means that he's going to turn into the 60-yard home run hitting back, but I think not getting hit in the backfield seemingly every play and then running a toss to the outside to get 2 yards after juking out 4 defenders, it just seems like it's going to be a much better fit for him.
Yeah, Chad said he has him as a top 10, and honestly, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I just don't have the stones to say it just yet. He's dangerously approaching my only fantasy for 2025. It just depends on where he goes for ADP, because I don't like to take guys that are going like in the top 20 or 25 for an only fantasy, because I kind of want it to be like this guy's flying under the radar. I know I took DJ Moore 2 years ago, but that's because everybody was shitting on him. Like, because of where he was, they're like, oh, he's not going to get enough passes. They don't throw the ball enough. Yeah. I was like, I don't think he's just too good. But Najee's in the perfect situation. It's going to suck seeing him playing in another uniform, but I'm really excited for what his future looks like.
Honestly, the biggest obstacle that I see for Najee is, do they draft a rookie? And if they do, when? If they come in and somehow like still draft Hampton or something like that, like it could absolutely cripple both of them, honestly.
There's no way that they're drafting Omarion Hampton. And that's because they're taking Colson Loveland.
That would be pretty sick.
When Evan Ingram went to Denver, that just cleared a path for Loveland to play on Harbaugh again. But
no, that's true. It'll be interesting to see. I thought Ingram was going to go to the Chargers, to tell you the truth, but I could definitely see that unfolding. I don't know if I'd want to put a first rounder on Loveland, but I don't think he'll be there when he gets back in a second.
I think most people expect him to go in the late first. I mean, he's a pretty legit weapon.
Yeah. I think that some people, I think it's just one of those things where it's like, they're chasing the Brock Bowers hype, and I don't think he's a Brock Bowers caliber guy.
At 22, though, it's not as
Maybe.
bad. They were picking in the mid-teens. Like, I think Tyler Warren's probably going to go in the teens, but I think Loveland's
and that's a scary one, too, because outside of last year, Tyler Warren didn't really do a ton. He kind of just shockingly out of nowhere just put up a huge season. So I'll be very curious to see where those guys fall. It's obviously a what have you done for me lately league, but I feel like it's a big risk, especially when those guys don't have like super dynamic athletic profiles. They weren't highly pedigreed players going in. So to see the stock rise as much as they do, I'll be very curious to see how early they go, but they both seem like first round picks.
Yeah. But yeah, Najee, swipe right. I'm excited for him after seeing what Dobbins was able to do when the dude tore his ACL, tore his Achilles, like the uphill battle that he had to see what he did, to have a guy like Najee in there. It's just very exciting.
It'll be fun. I'm excited for him. Hopefully he can turn it into a bigger payday. Very close to what his 5th-year option would have been if he would have got it picked up by the Steelers, but we'll see. So
yeah,
sticking in the running back room, let's transition over. We had a player that actually returned back to the team that he moved to last year. So Aaron Jones sticking with the Minnesota Vikings, got a 2-year contract there. They also just this week acquired Jordan Mason. So if y'all want to give a swipe right, swipe left, game of Jones, are you buying, are you selling, swiping right, swiping left? And then I will give y'all a minute. We'll check the comments here, and then we will show our answers now. So, Drew, we both swiped right. I think for me, Jordan Mason doesn't scare me a ton. I do think that the Vikings would have been an interesting like jump on a running back early, maybe in the second round sort of situation, because they already have a lot of the other premier positions locked up. They have Hawkinson, they have Jettas, they already have Addison. So it's like, all right, like, is that missing piece going to be the running back? And then they move on from Aaron Jones, who's a little bit older now. But now that they have Jones signed for 2 years, they have Jordan Mason that they traded for. I don't really see them taking anybody at all. So I think that, at least from what I could see, they're either going to go line, which would be a big help for him, or they're going to be looking at the defensive side of the ball, which from the running back's perspective, if you have a good defense, that's going to help you from a fantasy perspective. So I like Aaron Jones this year. I think as long as he can stay healthy, he'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, so a couple of things that I want to add on to what you said. So first and foremost, the durability with Aaron Jones. We got to give a shout out to this dude. Like, everyone's been talking for the past 2 years, grab his handcuff, because if he does get hurt, that's like a league-winning type move. The dude's been very durable considering his age. He's only missed 6 games over the last 2 seasons. And to your
that
point,
was all in 2023. He played all of his games in 2022, all of his games 2024. So, yeah, I mean, he's been pretty ironclad. If you look at his finishes in fantasy, 2019 he was RB2, 20 RB5, 21 RB11, 22 RB9, 23 was he had that injury. So RB37, then bounces back this past year, RB14.
Yeah, and RB14, and the Vikings did not do well run blocking. They were 19th in the league, pretty pedestrian, below average. For him to do as well as he did with not much running room was very impressive. I mean, he had a career high in rushing yards behind that offensive line, which is crazy for me. But Jordan Mason's going to be an elite, handcuff on the off chance something does happen to Jones. But the Vikings don't have any picks, so they're not going to use a pick on a running back because they don't have any. They traded so many picks last year to move up.
Yeah, it's crazy how all of that unfolded, and then now they're going to see what they got in McCartney. I don't know what to feel about him. I was very anti-JJ going into last year, but every quarterback in that draft has seemingly been gold. So it's like, does he just fall into suit with that, or what does that look like?
It's all about Kevin O'Connell. I don't know if there's a quarterback that he can't make solid at this point. That's just how it's been. So
yeah,
I feel good about it. He's going to have growing pains. And I mean, I was really sweating the Rodgers situation with him actually going to Minnesota, because I pointed this out last year. Late November, he had another surgery to repair his knee because his swelling was just out of control. So, like, I kind of thought that they would bring in someone and give him some more time, but
Yeah.
It's got to be someone that they know, like, as soon as he's ready, they can put him to the bench, which makes sense that Rodgers isn't going to end up going there. But I do think that it's going to be tough for him at the beginning, which if that's the case, they're going to rely on Aaron Jones a little more at the beginning. So.
Yeah, and I do think Jordan Mason, like, they'll use him in spells. I don't think that they want to overuse Aaron Jones. Pretty big year. This is the biggest year that he's had as far as attempts and yards. So they leaned on him quite a bit. Biggest usage since 2019.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes. But I don't really see Jordan Mason as like a pass catcher all that much. But you're right. Kevin O'Connell, top 5 coach in the league. He's everybody that has played quarterback under him has done a little bit of something. So yeah, I think McCartney, he'll definitely at least be somebody that I'm looking at as a flyer that you can get in the later rounds and see what happens, especially if he's going to be doing any semblance of running, which he does have the legs for it. All right. So we got one more set of running backs that we're going to talk about. I only put one on the graphic because I'm lazy. But in Dallas, are we Texas two-stepping with Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders? Both signed 1-year deals with the Cowboys this offseason. Javonte Williams drew your 2024 only fantasy for the year. Very popular pick in the Najee Harris draft to actually be the top running back of that class. Injuries have kind of set him up a bit. Got a 1-year, $3 million deal with Dallas. How are we feeling? Let's see how it looks. So we actually got some differing opinions. I was a swipe right. You guys swipe left. I will give you the floor, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of mine is projection of what I think is going to happen in the draft. I love Javonte. If they don't pick someone, I'll be ecstatic for the dude. I have him on a lot of dynasty teams, but I don't see a world where they don't draft a running back in this class. And it doesn't need to be someone early. People are ignoring the fact that this running back class is deep. Like there are 4 guys in this class right away that I think are RB1s. I mean, obviously Genty and Hampton, but I'm a big Caleb Johnson guy. I'm a big Kinshawn Junkins guy. Like I think
Henderson and Judkins are going to be solid. There's so many good players, and even the ones that I don't like, I'm like, I could see it. I think this year in Dynasty, it's going to be when in doubt, I'm just going to take a running back. If there's no receiver that I feel good about, or I'm like kind of like, it's like, all right, well, just throw another dart at it.
He might have some early work early in the season, but I do think that there's going to be a running back that's going to end up taking over that role at some point. And I wouldn't, we talked about this, I wouldn't be shocked if they took Hampton at 12. I really wouldn't. I think they're probably going to go offensive line, but
they should.
They're going to have a guy
retiring.
They're going to have a guy in the second round that's going to be an elite talent that they can bring in, and he's going to be the running back of the future. And I think that that's going to end up happening. So, like, as much as I want Javonte to be a thing, they signed to a 1-year deal. I mean, they're not committed to him for the future, and this class is just so deep.
Yeah, I think the thing though is like, why would you sign both Javonte and Miles Sanders? Like, why would you want to bring in like 2 of not a redundant skill set, but just like where they're at in their careers? If you're dead set on bringing in like a rookie, why would you waste the time to secure those guys now?
I just think that they were cheap. You know what I mean? Like, the Steelers have this thing where they're just like, we want to have a guy in place for every position. That way we don't have to draft for need. And the Cowboys kind of put themselves in a bad position last year where they didn't put themselves in a good position heading into the draft. And you could tell that they wanted to go with Jonathan Brooks, and everybody knew that they wanted Jonathan Brooks. And then the Panthers frogged them and then took Brooks from them. And then they were just like, shit, like our guy was gone. So like, I don't think that they want to put themselves in a corner. But in this class, there's 4 or 5 guys that someone's just going to fall in their lap at the right spot, and they're going to get their guy. I mean, Caleb Johnson, he was projected to be a second-round pick by a lot of people, but his 40 time was very unimpressive at the combine. He's falling down boards. If you can get a guy like him in round 3, he doesn't play like his 40 time.
No, yeah, that I was surprised with that too. I mean, it wasn't a horrendous one, but it wasn't great. I think what's interesting is everybody's saying that like they need a running back, they need to do all this and that. They could have brought back Rico because I mean he ran for 1,000 yards. That offensive line wasn't that great. I think the offensive line is where they need to be investing heavily this offseason.
Not bringing back Rico is why I think they're going to draft a back though, because he was good. Why wouldn't they just bring him back?
Yeah,
you know I mean, like, and he took a job as a backup,
right. But I think the problem is, so if you look at like the departures, they had Lawrence left. Who knows what's going to happen with Micah? Like, is he going to be around? So I feel like the trenches are going to be huge for Dallas this year. So to me, it's like if they can load up in the trenches, it's a deep defensive line class. They can kind of attack there. They might take a guy in the mid rounds from a running back perspective,
and I think that they're a starter. That's the thing. Like I think that the running backs you're drafting in the mid rounds are starters this year.
Yeah, but I don't think that for at least for this year for fantasy, I don't think that they may be a late season player, but I don't think week one they're just going to take over. Like it's Javante's backfield to lose. Miles Sanders does nothing for me. So I think at cost, so we were talking about the best ball ranks right now. So if I'm looking,
he's going to be really cheap, and I would definitely
Javante's RB 49 right now.
Yeah, I would definitely draft him where he's going. I think that they're going to draft a running back. So I'm not committing to him as a guy that I'm just like, I feel good about it kind of thing. And I love Javonte. You know how I feel about Javonte.
No, yeah, for sure.
On the dynasty leagues. I just don't think that he's going to be the guy long term.
So on this note, so Chad had mentioned so Javonte can be the starter or the backup to a rookie. Sanders seems like a clear third down guy. It makes sense. Before we transition into the next topic, Ricky had a dynasty question. So he's between Matthew Golden, Jalen Milroe, or an RB for my second round pick in dynasty for the rookie draft. Doesn't have a first. I believe he traded it away going for the ship. I remember talking to him about that trade. So second round pick. Say that again.
I have a hot take here.
Hit it.
Matthew Golden's my wide receiver one in this class, and for a rookie
draft. Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, Travis Hunter, I think, is going to be a DB, but he's going to have packages as a wide receiver. So if he's not playing enough snaps on offense, like he will, he's not going to be a viable fantasy option. So like I love Golden. I was super impressed with his tape. I mean,
it's funny too, thinking about Golden. It was like 3/4 of the way through the year, everybody was like, "Oh, Bond, like he's the guy that you need to talk about." And I remember watching the college football playoffs, and I was like, "Why is nobody talking about Matthew Golden? That dude always seems open."
Matthew Golden was the guy. Like it was supposed to be Bond because he came over from Alabama, but Golden was the guy for most of the year. The dude just gets open. He just looks like a guy that just plays hard and he's a hard worker. His 40 was insane because he doesn't play like
that. Especially after Isaiah Bond was like, I'm going to break the record, and then he wasn't even the fastest guy on his team.
Yeah, Matthew Golden doesn't play like that 40, but it's like it's cool to know that like if you need that juice, he has it. It's just that but like that's not really who he is. But I think that he's a guy that he's a good separator. I think he can get open, and I think that he's going to command a lot of targets depending on what offense he goes to. If he gets to a good situation, of course. But I like him a lot. I mean.
You would really take him over Tet, though?
So the thing with Tet is like his 40 was very unimpressive. Like no one has gone in the top 15 picks with his 40 time. And like he's like a very good jump ball, like competitive catch guy. Like his hands are insane. But like I don't know if he's going to get open at a high level in the NFL. Like I'm worried about that.
Yeah, I'm not worried at all. I mean, he was doing it as a freshman. I think people were just bored because he's supposed to have been the wide receiver one for how many years now?
I think that he's going to slide in the draft.
He might slide a little bit, but I still think he's the wide receiver one of it. Well, I take this back. If Travis Hunter is playing wide receiver, he is wide receiver one.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to play enough snaps. I think that he's going to be a receiver and a DB.
I don't know. See, that's the thing that I'm thinking about a lot. If I'm like in the back end of the first round, or if he's available in the second round.
In the rookie drafts, I've been doing a ton of mocks just kind of see where the ADPs are changing. He's going in the beginning of the second because everybody's scared about that. But if he gets announced as a wide receiver at the podium, that changes a lot.
If he gets announced at the wide receiver on the podium, I'm telling you right now, in life, he will be 102 for me.
He should be. He should be the first wide receiver taken if he's announced as a wide receiver at the podium. But for me, as Matthew Golden, you can debate who's 1, 2, and 3 between those guys. I think that they're all neck and neck. Like, it's not like last year where we had like elite wide receivers like we do in this class. This is a running back class. But Matthew Golden's kind of like my preference of what I would want. And he's going in like the middle to late second in rookie drafts right now. Mock. Like I would love that if I could get him in those spots.
Yeah, I think out of the list here, like Milroe is not someone that I'm looking at drafting unless he gets taken like in the first round somehow, which he's not.
I'm very interested in him though, because he kind of has like a Jalen Hurts type of he could be Jalen Hurts. Like he has the work ethic, he has the style for fantasy.
He has the fantasy style because he had 20 touchdowns last year, but that dude just can't hit the broadside of a barn with football.
He should be a second. Like he should be like he should
it's
be.
It's got to be but if Golden is there, I'm not taking Milroe over. Golden.
It's Golden for me, right? Like I wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah,
but Jalen Milroe is a guy that I'm actually going to be interested in.
I think he would be like a third round guy for me because you know that he's not going to be starting. And then it's kind of you're just like sitting and waiting and seeing what happens. To me, I think that it's not worth it. Or you trade back up with a future pick if you feel that strongly about him. I just don't feel that strongly about him.
I don't think he's going to go in the mid-second, though. I think he's going to be closer to the third, which I'll be okay with that.
Yeah.
But Golden is – I would consider taking him at 201. That's how I feel about him. But it depends on what running backs are there. Like Judkins and
– Well, now you got me curious of like what – are the current. So I'm going to pull up Keep Trade Cut and just see how the rookies are ranking right now for Dynasty. So you got Genty 1, Hampton 2, McMillan 3. You got Ward 4. Matthew Golden is 13th.
Yeah.
Milroe is at 17. That surprises me. But I'm looking at the names that he's being drafted around. So you got Dart is at 15. Cam Scattaboo is at 16. Couldn't care less about him. Trey Harris at 18. I would smash and run to the podium. I would take Trey Harris way before I took Milroe. Then you're looking at like Ollie Gordon, Isaiah Bond, Trevor Etienne, Devin Neal, Dylan Sampson. I think Devin Neal, Dylan Sampson, Trey Harris. Those are all guys I'd probably take over Milroe. But then after that,
Sampson's another guy that I view as an RB1.
He's nasty.
And I think Scatabo is an RB1 too. You might not be a fan of him, but he just runs through a mother effer's face. And I
just don't like him as a person.
Yeah, that's fair. He reminds me of Marion Barber, though. I can absolutely see him as a Cowboy.
You're only allowed to compare white players to white players, Drew.
Is that? But their run style, dude. Like
you got to go Peyton Hillis or something like that. That's the rule.
Yeah, but Peyton Hillis is like thicker.
Yeah, no, I know. I do like the Marion Barber comp though. That's a good one. So Riggy said, if Matthew's there, I have a golden ticket. I don't even want to answer that. I'm pissed.
I hope he's not there now.
All right, so that covers us on the running back front. So let's jump to receivers. This one kind of hit people a little by surprise. Devontae Adams not following in the footsteps of Aaron Rodgers. Moving on over to Los Angeles. So are you up in Adams as he slots in as the wide receiver 2 with your boy Puka Nacua, Matt Stafford? I'll give this a 1, 2, 3. Let's give it a thumbs up. I'm very excited about this. We'll probably spoil the next little bit here talking about Cooper Kupp, but Cooper Kupp could not get open last year, and he's been progressively worse and worse at getting open in the last 3 years.
He's really just been banged up, though.
I think he's just I think he's hitting that cliff, and I think that they were smart to not pay him $45 million over 3 years like Seattle was doing. I hate that deal.
Yeah,
Adams.
That was a home, bring him home kind of. He's from Washington. We need to sell tickets kind of deal. But
that's crazy to me.
They made the right move. I mean, this is the easiest swipe right ever because you're just plugging in Devontae Adams and you can guarantee he's getting at least 100 targets. So it's like,
yeah. And he, despite his age, still has it. There hasn't been that cliff yet. So that's going to be really fun. It's an immediate upgrade for me. So I don't think there's much more to talk about. Big Devontae guy. I think he bounces back really nicely. Do you have any concerns as not only a Puka guy, but maybe the Puka guy about what that means for him?
No, he was on pace if he doesn't miss any time, and he would have had 150 targets last year plus. And Cooper Kupp still had 100 targets. So, like, it's not going to be a problem at all. They can hold both of those guys. I mean, Puka Nacua is a top 10 guaranteed first-round pick and redraft. He has to be.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, just the way that they utilize him and find ways to get him the ball. I think the biggest concern from him is, do you buy into the injuries that he had from last year, and can they be like a lingering thing? Because he had injury issues in college. He had the injury last year with that weird knee thing that kind of kept him out for a bit.
The knee thing is like he just landed wrong, though. I mean, in college, he had like soft tissue things. So, like, as long as that stays away, I feel good about it. Like, the knee was just a freak thing. And, like, if he gets hurt at the end of the season, right, and he had actual time to get healthy, because he got hurt during training camp. If he has time, he probably doesn't miss any time. It's just that you had to rush him back because of the season, you know, and he fell awkwardly again. But then he ended up playing through it. So like, Puka's the type of guy that would play through if he could. They were just trying to make sure it didn't turn into a bigger thing, because of the time. So
let's just flip it. Let's talk about it. Cooper Kupp runneth over in Seattle. I don't know if I agree with the swipe that you gave, but it's what we have, and the show's just going to run with it. But you have him as a swipe right. I swiped left. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it already. I don't think that Cooper Kupp is falling off. I just think that he had some pretty tough injury luck the last couple of years, and I'm never going to project for a guy to get hurt. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not what I'm going to do. And what's so funny is that, like, everyone's freaking out because, like, JSN was a slot guy. Cooper Kupp's a slot guy. But, like, if you actually break it down, Cooper Kupp lined up in the slot only like 62% of the time over the past 3 years. That he can play outside. They can move him around. JSN has to play in the slot, though. Like, he's been doing it for 76% of the time. Like, he's the guy that needs to be in the slot. Cooper Kupp, I think he's from Washington. They're going to want to, you know, get him the ball. They're going to want to get JSN the ball. It's just a matter if he stays healthy for me. I think that there's a real chance he gets hurt because it's happened several years in a row. I mean, before his huge 2021 season, he had some injury concerns too. He tore his ACL. Like, he's been prone to get hurt, but I'm never going to project a guy to get hurt. I just think that the opportunity is still there. It's just a matter if he can stay on the field. And I think that hopefully he does. And he's going to be drafted lower, you know what I mean? So it's not as risky. Take a guy like him, but he has to stay healthy. And if he doesn't, then you're going to be dead on with the swipe left. I'm not going to, you know, think that that's going to happen. I'm just going to hope for the best.
I'm just going to victory lap real quick. My 2021, November 24th, 2021 trade. I traded Cooper Kupp for Robert Woods, 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick.
I want a victory lap because you texted me and said, do you think I should do this? I said, yes.
we can hold hands and victory lap together. It'll be great. Okay,
you hit the accept, but I did assist.
The alley-oop was real. Okay, so if I'm looking,
I was waiting under the basket like this as you slammed it home.
That's incredible. Okay, so let me find him on Underdog. So Puka's our wide receiver 4, not really a surprise. Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Nacua, pretty consistent with what we would expect here. So let's see where we got to go to find Devontae Adams at wide receiver 21 feels low.
Yes. Yeah.
And then if we're looking for Cooper Kupp, wide receiver 47, ADP 87.2. So he's getting drafted around Shakir, Emeka Egbuka, Matthew Golden, Jalen McMillan, Josh Downs, Darnell Mooney.
I mean, there's a lot of guys in that area that I would probably pick over him.
Yeah.
But I just think that when we get to redraft time, a lot of people are going to get gun shy of Cooper Kupp because he hasn't produced the last couple of years. But again, for me, it's due to the injuries. Hopefully he stays healthy. If he doesn't, then, is what it is. But I could spend a round 9 pick on him.
Yeah, for sure. So. All right, so let's just keep this, the meme where it's like everybody's just passing the bottles around and everything's just going to the same place. Let's just keep it going. So departing from Seattle that opened up this spot for Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf. Drew, are you feeling Metcalfinated about this move? 5 years, $150 million to the Steelers. You might be shocked. It does nothing for me.
You have swipe right for him, man. All right. It's all right. But you just reminded me that DK Metcalf plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and damn, that's sick. Honestly.
It's sick. I think in real life fantasy, it's great. I don't think that the quarterback situation this year is going to do him any favors.
Yep.
So that's primarily why I'm swiping left, where it's like, regardless if it's Mason, Aaron Rodgers, I don't even know who, Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, whoever they're looking at, me. I think that, one, you have a redundant skill set with him and George Pickens. My hot take, George is gone before the season starts, and that's why they signed Metcalf. I could see George being a part of a draft day trade potentially. That's just pure speculation on my part.
For my sources, just Zach.
They don't. Yeah, I don't have a source for that one. It just seems like the writing is on the wall for Pickens. I don't think he gets an extension based. Like, they're not going to pay Metcalf and Pickens.
So here's my counterpoint for the hot take. I agree with you that they should probably trade him, but I think that the comp pick that they get for him leaving in free agency is going to be equitable to what they would get in a trade. So you can get him for the season of 2025, and I think that he signs a deal where your comp pick is the same.
So you're basically getting a third from the comp pick, so then it doesn't matter. I could see that. I could also see like a sign-in trade if you were to like tag him or something like that. But I don't see an extension happening in Pittsburgh whatsoever.
Oh yeah, I absolutely think that he's gone unless he were to take way less money than I think that he would take, which that's not realistic. But I think that the comp pick would be the same if they trade.
It's going to be a third or a fourth most likely. He'll command around $30 million a year. Chad's got a little bit of a bold prediction here. Skylar Thompson, DK Metcalf, the new Montana Rice.
Let's move on.
Anything else you want to say about the DK move?
I have a lot of stuff here actually. So I agree with you that him and George are a very similar skill set, but I think that when you're paying $150 million to this dude, like, he's going to be the guy that they're targeting.
He's got to be the focal point of the offense for sure.
George is not going to be good unless he's scoring a lot of touchdowns this year. Let's just be real. Like, he's going to have to score touchdowns for him to pay off at where he's probably going to be drafted. A lot of this is tied to Rodgers, obviously, because I don't think the Steelers throw the ball enough if Rodgers isn't the quarterback. Like, they were 28th in the league in passing attempts last year with a guy that was actually doing pretty good until the last month. Like, Russ was actually playing at a high level until that last month where things...
Until he had to play a real defense, and then it all...
We were playing teams that are just way better than us. Like, that's just what it is. And DK is really good at running vertical routes, which the Steelers love throwing sideline vertical routes. But he's
this whole thing with DK was like a moonball wet dream, but now they don't have Russ anymore. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it, because Pickens is a great vertical route runner. Metcalf, great vertical route runner. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
But he's still good in the intermediate. He doesn't get open, but he can run slants. He's very physical. So I think they're going to be able to get him the ball. So I was just kind of thinking about, in terms of targets, how we're going to do this, right? So we threw 361 times last year.
Which is like nothing.
And Yes. And obviously George had, what do you have, like 111 targets that I've written down here?
Sounds about right.
And he missed what, 3 games? So I think that those targets are going to become DKs. So if he's getting 115 to 130 targets, he's going to pay off just based on that volume.
He's currently wide receiver 28 in best ball right now.
Yeah, that's
which feels kind of low, just knowing that he's going to be the wide receiver 1.
So who's going to be hurt the most out of this situation, though?
Friend of the pod.
Yeah, it's going to be Pat. And Pat had 78 targets last year. So if you take a big chunk of Pat's targets, get rid of all of the Van Jefferson and Calvin. Well, get rid of Van Jefferson's entirely. And then Calvin's is obviously going to drop a significant amount. I think that George still ends up with around 90 to 100 some targets. But DK is going to have a crap ton of targets. They're just
I feel a lot better about both of them in best ball than I do in like regular fantasy, because they're going to have games where they put it together. They're also going to have a lot of duds.
They're going to have a lot of games where we don't know which one's going to be the guy you want to start, which is going to be annoying. But if they sign Rodgers, it's completely thrown out the window to me. I know that Arthur Smith wants to run the ball, but Aaron Rodgers is not going to come here and throw the ball 50% of the time.
Well, they're not going to run Arthur Smith's offense if Aaron Rodgers is coming.
Exactly. And I'm swiping right because I think that Rodgers is probably going to come. Like, if Minnesota's is out of it, I don't think that he's like Chad said he might go play for the Rams in week 5. I don't think that Rodgers is the type of guy that's going to wait until training camp to pick a team. I think he's going to pick before the draft. Mini camp starts April 21st. I think that he's on a team by then, personally. And I don't think that the Giants are a team that he would want to go to. Like, everybody's saying, like, oh, the appeal of playing with Malik Neighbors, but the Giants are not going anywhere. What's the point of a 41-year-old quarterback playing football if he's going to a team that's not – he's not going to get the money that's worth it, though, right? You know what I mean? Like, he's already made the most money of, like, any quarterback in history on the field.
Besides Kirk Cousins.
Kirk's made a lot of money, but
all guaranteed too, baby.
Rodgers is going to play for a team that he might be able to contend with. So
I think he either plays for the Steelers or he retires.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think he's going to retire yet. I don't.
I don't think he wants to go out the way that he did. I think his ego is way too big for that.
Exactly. So I think he's going to be a Steeler. And if they emulate what he did with the Jets last year, they threw the ball 65% of the time. An extra 15% of targets out there is going to be great for DK.
Yeah.
And that'll sustain Pat maybe at like a tight end 2 level, mid-tier tight end 2, depending if he scores touchdowns. But I think you pay too much to DK for him not to be.
No, for sure. No, that makes sense. All right, so let's keep on this exodus out of the NFC West. I don't know why everybody wants to get rid of their wide receivers there, but Deebo Samuel traded to the Washington Commanders, surprise NFC Championship team at the end of last season. Jaden Daniels. I know, Drew, you're still hurting that you don't have Jaden Daniels. I know that you want him bad. I don't know what's going on with the microphone either. I don't like that.
I'm really excited for this one.
All right. So, again, I feel like I'm just a generational hater today. You swipe right. I swipe left.
Well, you go
first. For
me,
I think that Deebo's washed. He had some interesting splits before he got pneumonia last year. He was averaging like 10 targets a game. He was looking pretty good. After that, I think he was only getting like 6 a game. You're not really seeing him run the ball. Yeah, he wasn't really running the ball as much. His separation metrics aren't that great. I do think real life football, I think that it's a great fit for Washington. They throw a lot of screens. They'll find ways to get Jaden Daniels the ball a little like out of his hands quicker, get it to Deebo. So I think there's that potential. I think that he's at best a flex play. I think that he's going to get overdrafted because of the excitement around Washington. And I think it's going to be interesting too, with them being the 4th place team going into last season, they had an easy schedule. They're going to have a much more difficult schedule this season. So how does that translate? I have a lot of faith in Jaden Daniels. I think he is the truth. So it's not like I think that he's going to have this massive regression or anything like that. I just think that Terry's their guy. They brought back Zach Ertz. I still think that he's going to be the number 2 target guy. Debo's going to have a big game or two here or there, but I don't think that he's going to go back to like his all-pro 2021 season by any means.
Yeah. So I actually agree with you on basically all of that. My notes, I have him as a flex play. I think that's what he is. But the reason why I swipe right, the Commanders led the NFL in screen passes last year by a significant margin. Like, that is exactly what Deebo Samuel needs. Like, that's who he is. I think that he's going to sneaky get 7 or 8 targets a game, but it's not going to be like high-end plays unless he breaks one. But I think that he breaks a few, and I could see him getting their high percentage catches. Like, if you're starting a guy that's getting 5 receptions.
They weren't for him last year. He had that one game, he had like 4 drops, and it was just like.
Yeah. But I don't think that's who he is.
No.
The Niners were just an absolute dumpster fire last year. That's really what it was. And I think that he went to the perfect landing spot for him to still be fantasy viable. If you're getting a guy that's getting 5 receptions right off the bat and his yardage, if he gets into the end zone, he's going to be a wide receiver too, most likely in a week like that. I don't know how many. He's going to have to score a lot of touchdowns because he's not going to have the big play unless he breaks one.
Right.
But I think that you're looking at a solid, like almost 4 for 50, 5 for 60 right off the bat, just because of their offensive play style. And that's solid for me as a flex play. And if he can get a couple more catches or, get into the end zone, like, I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be a reliable starter. It's just that the wide receiver class is so deep, right? So, like, I understand, like, he's not as flashy. I just think that he went to the perfect situation that we can actually utilize him. If he went anywhere else, I'd say he's dead. But I just like the situation for him. And the fact that Jaden Daniels is a threat to run is going to give him more opportunity to work in that intermediate area. And as long as he catches the football, you're looking at, decent opportunity.
Yeah, I think what scares me is that even so 2023 ended up being wide receiver 12 in fantasy points per game, but he hasn't cleared 900 receiving yards since 2021. And it feels like more of an outlier than it is the norm.
Yeah. So, I think it's just, to your point, there was just so many weapons there. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that's not really the case here. It's him and Terry. And then you're looking at Diami Brown, Alameda Zacchaeus. Like,
Brown's gone.
Is he still a free agent?
No, he got picked up.
Who was it? Titans?
He got picked up by the Jaguars.
Oh, I completely missed that. It's incredibly irrelevant. But yeah, it's just him and Terry, right? So, like, unless they draft a guy high that we wouldn't expect.
Which I think that they don't have as much of a need for that as they once did.
Yeah, I think they're going to go with the trenches. I think they're probably going to go interior defensive line, especially after losing Jonathan Allen. I think that the situation is just going to keep him viable.
Cool. So we're coming up on the hour. I think rather than talk about Christian Kirk and Hollywood Brown, let's jump into our only fantasy predictions. So typically we're doing this on a week-by-week basis, but to scratch that itch, to give the only fantasy off-season show kind of lead this with a bang. Let's talk about, Drew. Who do you think was the player who got put into the best situation from a fantasy perspective from the off-season moves that were made?
It's Justin Fields. I've been pretty adamant on X about this. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles created a template last year. A guy that throws for like 3,500 passing yards, runs a ton, and needs an elite, dynamic wide receiver one to support him. And I was very adamant. I was like, Steelers bring him back, get a bona fide one, which I wanted it to be Garrett Wilson. Like I thought the Jets would move on from him because I didn't think that they were going to pay him given their situation.
It would be funny if they went and traded him now.
They did the exact opposite and just took my plan, but then kept it for themselves. Bastards. Just follow me on X and then just take my ideas, you know. But the Steelers got DK, and I was like, great. Like, this is a good thing for Justin if he comes back. But he went to the Jets. But the same thing happened that I wanted to happen.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's better. Like, he has a very strong relationship with Garrett Wilson. They went to college together. They killed it together at Ohio State. And people are forgetting, like, he had QB1 weeks last year.
Oh, for sure. Well, the thing with Fields was never about when he's on the field, he is a viable fantasy quarterback because he's so willing to run.
Yes.
The problem has been historically, you don't know if he is going to remain the starter, which I would say beyond this year, maybe not. But for 2025,
they're fully
going to be on the field for sure.
Fully committed to him. And I love the situation that he's going to because I think that Aaron Glenn is legit. Like, people were raving about Ben Johnson as a head coach, but a lot of people were talking about the fact that Aaron Glenn is actually the guy that you want because
I think Ben Johnson is a creative football mind, but he seems kind of like a tool. Aaron Glenn seems like somebody that can really get things going.
Yes, maximize your talent. And I think that this is the perfect situation for him to like lock in and be a guy somewhere. It just sucks because I did want it to be with us because I felt like if you just followed what the Eagles did, build the trenches, get an elite running back. Like if say we got Justin back, built the trenches, we did well with the offensive line the last couple of years in the draft, get a few interior defensive linemen. Like I was really hyping up Jonathan Allen, bringing him in, get a bona fide wide receiver one. And if we get a guy like Genty or Omarion Hampton in the draft, I was like, this is a formula that could work for Justin, except that's what the Jets did. They got their bona fide one with Garrett Wilson, someone that he's very familiar with. He has Breece Hall in the backfield. Like, it's the perfect situation for him. And if he continues to run the way he did, he's had top 10 finishes in 48% of his starts. Like, he should be a top 10 quarterback next year. No question.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Assuming that he stays healthy and they don't decide to bench him halfway through the year for some random reason. Yeah, it seems like a lock. I'll be interested to see when I looked at when the signing first happened, it clearly didn't account for this yet. But now if I look at top 10 QBs, so Justin Fields is still QB 20. To me, that's like an immediate
QB 20. Oh my God.
Immediate smash. I would imagine that he climbs as you get closer. I don't know how often people are best ball drafting in March, but it's like I would take him over Patrick Mahomes. I would take him over Baker Mayfield. I would take him over Bo Nix. I would take him over Kyler Murray. Caleb is going to be very interesting this year. I think that he's going to surprise some people.
I would still take him over Caleb, though, too, because I think that he'll run more.
True. But I think like that Caleb, Drake May,
I would take him over Drake May.
That kind of range. To me, that's like an easy decision to go for it, especially for this year. Dynasty screams so high to me. I don't believe in the talent.
I've already traded him once. I feel really good about it. If you're in a win now situation though, I would still go get him because I just think
sure, yeah.
He's just if you can get him as a QB2 in Dynasty, it's so good for fantasy owners to have Justin Fields this year. It's it's great.
Yeah.
I hope he succeeds too. Like
I hope he does well. I'm a big fan of the guy. I
kind of want the Steelers to have regrets in this situation. I know that sounds bad, but like the money was too much. I admit I wouldn't have gone to where the Jets were, but I think that the Jets had to go there or else he would have probably come back to the Steelers.
Oh, he definitely would have. Yeah. They overpaid to get the guy. I don't think it's going to solve their QB situation, but it'll be fun.
I want them to regret, like, they should have put more thought into bringing him back in at the end of the season when Russ, like, completely fell off the cliff. Like,
but if you remember, he was hurt. He got hurt, like, right around Christmas. So I think they might have, but he was inactive 2 of the last 3 games.
Yeah, but he still – there were weeks where he was dressing as the 2.
Right. But when you got into that crunch time, like you weren't going to pull Russ after the first game that he played bad. Like that's bad business. But then when you get to like the Ravens Chiefs back to back, he was inactive. He was hurt.
I thought he got hurt before that.
He did. He got hurt around the Browns game.
Right. And I thought that he was back for those games, though.
He was back, but then he was inactive again in 16-17.
All right. We don't know what it was like behind the scenes between them and Justin, but like I still felt like the relationship was soured, because if it wasn't, I think that they would have locked it up earlier than letting him even have the opportunity to talk.
Well, I think here's what I think happened. The agents come to the Steelers and they're like, "Hey, we want 2 years, $15 million apiece." Steelers said, "Okay," and they said, "All right, well, we're going to go out into the market." The Jets said, "Hey, we'll give you $30 million guaranteed, 2 years, $40 million," and then it was like, "All right, well, the Steelers aren't committing to me long term, so let me get this extra money, lock it up."
Jeremy Fowler reported that they were closer, but I trust Zach's report that they weren't really that close. The number he gave me, Justin would have laughed in their face.
Yeah.
Shout out to Zach.
All right. So my only fantasy for the offseason, I think I'm really excited about this one. Evan Ingram, boy. I like this guy a lot. Last 3 years, fantasy points per game, 7th, 4th, and then even last year banged up, 12th. Goes to Denver. Sean Payton loves him a dynamic tight end. He even tweeted about being like the Joker whenever he signed with the Broncos. They have Cortland Sutton, not a lot else. You know, some people were really like big like Vele fans. They have Marvin Mims, who is like a fun gadget kind of guy, but I think Ingram slides in as the second target getter on the team. You're pretty much just hoping that he can stay healthy and then kind of go from there. But I like the move. I like the situation. I think Denver is going to be in a lot of dogfights this year. I don't think it's going to be easy for them to repeat what they did last year. I feel like it just sucks to be in the AFC. Everybody has a quarterback, it feels like, in the AFC, so they got their work cut out for them. But really like what Denver did picking them up. Like I said, I thought he was going to go to the Chargers, but ultimately Denver was also like a pretty reasonable, like, okay, like I could definitely see that too. So
I'm very excited for Ingram, to your point. I really am looking forward to see how they utilize him, because for Evan Ingram to do what he did in Jacksonville, he had to get targeted a crap ton, because he was just a catch the ball, get a first down kind of guy. He didn't really score any touchdowns, and they didn't target the tight end very much last year. Only 30 targets to tight ends last year for the Broncos. So that's concerning, but like, I think it's just a matter of like who they had on their roster just wasn't good. And I'd say he probably needs 7 or 8 targets.
Yeah. And I think it could definitely happen. And I think, to your point, if you think about like what is going to make Bo Nix successful in his second season is to have that chain mover security blanket guy that Evan Ingram fills that role very nicely. So,
and they're very much in play for a running back too.
Oh, yeah.
Very much in play.
And that would be a great fit too, because that line's already pretty well built up. You have your QB of the future. You have a piece. I could see them going even receiver as well. I could see them going defense, but I agree. I could see running back definitely in the first 2 rounds for sure.
I think if Genty's there at 20, which I don't think he will be.
I don't think he will be either.
Smash, but I don't think Omarion Hampton gets by them either. I think
the only thing that I'm curious about is that it's obviously a different regime now, but they didn't rush. They haven't rushed to take a running back historically. I mean, even with like Najee Javonte situation, like they were comfortable waiting at least until the second. So I think they'll assess, see what's in the second, third, kind of go from there and then make something happen.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if they have a lot of holes. And I feel like just getting a bona fide RB1 would be very good for them.
Yeah. All right, Drew, let's let these people know where to find us. So you can find us on X at AT412FF Show. You can find us on YouTube at Around the 412, as well as Twitch at Around the 412. It's been a good time. We'll probably do this once a month in the off season, probably check in after the draft, see how y'all are doing before we get into rookie draft mode. So excited to keep the Jeep riding. In the off season, I have to plug it because I'm basically working for them now. So you can check out the Fantasy Football Advice Network. So fantasysportsadvice.network, or you can find them pretty much anywhere on Twitter, all that sort of stuff. Been writing some article for them, doing some cool stuff. So shout out to those guys and putting out a lot of good content there too. Drew, any closing thoughts as we wrap up this off-season edition of Around the 412 Fantasy Football Show?
Not much else. Looking forward to the draft. Everyone that follows us obviously should check out, our show on draft night. We do the live show with the main guys at Around the 412 on that Thursday and that Friday night. The Around the 412 fantasy drafts or NFL draft special with friends. Check us out on that too.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out my outfit for that. So
I just show up. Like I used to do all this crazy shit, but now it's like I'm a dad and I'm going to be rushing to the TV at 8:20 after I get Noah to bed. So it's like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't think Jenna will be at a bedtime yet for that. So we'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for us here at the Around the 412 Fantasy Football Show. I'm Joe Frick. That's your boy, Drew Hannis. Until next time, my friends, and I hope that everything you want in your fantasy offseason comes true. So until next time.